listening to the local Earshot podcast with your host, Johnathan Grissom. Let's talk about music.
Hello, everybody. This is Johnathan Grissom of Morebands Media and the local Earshot podcast. I'm here with DieTrich from many, many different bands. Pretty Boy Floyd, Lords of Acid, Beauty and the Suffering, and then a whole lineup on his website of just different bands that he has worked with across the whole country, the whole world. So, let's just get into it. So, DieTrich, how did you get your start in music?
Hey, so it's great to be here. Thank you for having me on. How did I get my start? I think the music bug kind of pretty much hit me way back when I was a kid, and I would just seem to. I was always the kid running around with the tennis racket in the mirror and stuff like that. But I also noticed that I had pretty decent, even way back in the day, even when I was younger, we're talking like 8-9 years old, I felt like I had a really good recall memory, and I didn't know that's what that was at the time, but later on I was trying to figure out how is this abnormally easy to do when you're like doing different gigs and stuff like that, to learn so many different songs. But I think it just has to do with recall memory, and I got really lucky in that area. If you were going to say something like mutant power, that would be it. Mutant recall memory ears that can hear things, and I'm able to repeat them. And maybe the best example for people that doesn't sound familiar with as far as a talent or gift goes, maybe the game Simon Says. When you repeat tones, that's basically a great. If you have a child that you want to see what their skill level, where they could go with that, grab them a Simon Says, have them dive in and see if they what they are able to generate in terms of results.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was one of the very first major bands that kind of picked you up with that skill, and just were you able to show that you could do this?
Right. Well, I don't think anybody has ever asked me that specifically. It's just a tool that I used in the tool shed, and when I learn new songs, I just my general process for jumping into a band, and this even not even necessarily the legacy bands I've worked with, but cover bands. I've worked with a lot of cover bands, and I know that there's a little bit of a stigma attached to them, like, oh, it's cover bands. But the thing is that when you're doing cover songs, you're learning all kinds of different progressions, and you're learning all these tricks, and you're learning all these standard patterns, and they are very helpful when you're learning later on, when you're learning songs. So I think the question is.
Oh, just like the first bands that you were major that you started playing with, that kind of you knew that you had that skill, and you kind of discovered that about yourself. And
I mean, I think this goes way, way, way back. I was probably I think I was playing in bar bands when I was like 16 years old, so it helped. Okay. And I had a recall memory, which I think is the foundation for my ability to jump into bands very short notice. A lot of the bands that I work with, there's not a lot of rehearsals, and they always say there's going to be a rehearsal, but I always prepare in case there isn't, and 9 times out of 10 there are no rehearsals, and it's fine. I've done this so many times. I remember I did just as an example, most of the bands I've toured with don't do that, but here's another one. I went down and did this in the Dallas area. A band, Motley Crue tribute, hit me up and said, hey, you should come down and do this set with us. It's just, And so I went down there, and the only thing I had to do was verify that we were in the same tuning, and then I dove right in, and we covered everything, and it was no problem. It was just that right there is probably kind of I call it like the best. I don't surf, but that's like surfing there. That whole vibe, you're just jamming every note's right in there because you've been working on it, and and they're doing what they're supposed to do, and you're doing what you're supposed to do, and it's an amazing experience.
Okay. Can you speak to more of your experience with like Pretty Boy Floyd, kind of the tour that you were just on, and kind of like where that's going?
Right. So Pretty Boy Floyd. So I started working with them last summer, and I think the singer and I were kind of chatting amiably in social media, and he just asked what kind of plans I had, and we just kind of dove in, and they sent the set list, and I kind of we kind of dove right in and did a couple American shows. I think we did about a week, and then they had all this European, UK, and stuff, and that's what we ended up doing. I ended up hitting a bunch of countries that I hadn't been to before, including like Switzerland, Norway, Ireland. A more extensive dive into northern Italy. I think we played Hamburg on my birthday. That was fun.
Hamburg is awesome.
Hamburg is amazing.
I was stationed in Ramstein, Germany.
Okay.
In the Air Force.
Ramstein.
Ramstein.
Yeah.
And like I did like a 2-week trip where I went all over Europe. So I've been to Switzerland. I've
Very
been
nice.
to Hamburg, like all those places that people like talk about, Paris and all those places.
Just out of curiosity, is it the same kind of a situation with you, like where you're not on a lot of sleep, but you're there and you're like, I don't even care. It's just you're just like taking it all in.
Yep. And on a trip like that, you only have like we did the Euro pass, where it's like it's you pay like €500 or whatever it was at the time. The exchange rate was a lot better back then, but you'd buy a pass and then you could travel for 2 weeks across there. As long as you took certain trains, you could travel the whole
continent. So the train system.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we were traveling by train, and we were like backpacking, and so a lot of times like we would get to our next hotel or our hostel, and then we would just like go to sleep, and then wake up a few hours later and just go out and stuff, or we'd sleep on the trains while we were traveling.
Now, how long ago were you talking?
This was 2008, 2009.
A little bit ago.
Yeah.
We were just there, and I know that the public transportation thing is still, it seems like it's a very solid system to get where you need to go. I think it's I know that when I did in 2019 when I was doing France back then. I think that helped a lot. I mean, if you can navigate that public transportation, it's super helpful. And then there's some other differences there that are also very noticeable. I think I noticed. I don't know if it was the same in 2008, but more recently, I think the food costs are dramatically lower, and also the food choices are dramatically healthier.
Yes, they have more regulations in Europe when it comes to food. We have more processed food in the U.S. And so I mean, it makes a big difference because I know problems with like food or eating and stuff like that until I came back. Like, I was deployed and I got real sick while I was deployed. But whenever I came back to Europe, like I had no problems with European food. But when I came back to the States, I started having reflux again, started getting sick again. I basically didn't have acid reflux. I went deployed, had a bunch of food cook in my stomach while I was working, and so I had to, like, because I was in Qatar, It's like a...
I know exactly what it is,
Yeah, so it's really hot there. And, and so, I mean, when you talk about the Middle East, it's really, really warm.
It's kind of hot there now for different reasons.
Yes, it's just hot all over right now. So, but like the weather was just so warm that like you would eat something and it would literally be cooking your stomach. And I think that's why a lot of them eat like whole vegetables and they just eat like a lot of veggies and a lot of like certain things like that in their meals, because I mean eating a lot of processed like greasy food is not a good idea.
No, it doesn't sound like a good idea here either.
Yeah, anywhere really. I mean, but I am a typical American. I do eat a lot of junk, so but I mean, but yeah. Let me see. So, whenever so you were traveling with them, and you guys toured Europe, and then you just now got back from Brazil. How was South America? South
America was very interesting, and again, I noticed the same thing about the cost in food and stuff like that. There was a couple of things I noticed about Brazil. I was in specifically Sao Paulo. Mm-hmm. Have you been there?
No, okay. I've never been to South America.
So we had a super marathon flight, Dallas to L.A. to New York, and actually, I think the reason they put us in L.A. first instead of New York first was because that was the beginning of the international flight. So we shot over. It ended up being like a 30-hour flight there and a 30-hour flight there back. And we played a big glam fest down there called Glam Fest. And anyways, while we were down there, there was a couple of things I noticed. And I was, I took some pictures, and I didn't think they turned out as good as I had hoped, but I was just trying to get myself an idea of, because I wanted to verify when I came back. The crowds while we played there were amazing. They were fun. Everything was pretty normal as far as that goes. It was a very great response and stuff like that. A lot of fun to play the shows and to meet everybody. But as far as some of the stuff that I noticed, their electrical cables were a little bit different than they are here, whereas they had a ton of cables from pole to pole. And so there was like probably
they don't bury lines. It's just all
there was exactly. And I said
that's all a bunch of rats.
I was thinking that too. I think that they have far fewer buried lines, and they're all above ground. So there's like 40 or 50 cables from pole to pole.
Oh wow!
Easily 40 to 50. And there's all these anchors, and it just reminded me of all those some of those awful videos that you spot where somebody's like, "I've had it with this. My stuff's not working. I'm going to climb up here and fix it." And then it's disaster. Don't do that. But
don't go climbing power poles.
Right.
That's not good.
But there was that. And then I did also notice while I was there that I did not notice a lot of residences. It was a lot of some of those stacked housing kind of vibe, which, it was definitely an interesting, eye-opening experience. I did not sleep very much on that, and it was fine because I was just soaking it all up while I was there for the very first time.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of like how I travel too. I don't care about sleeping. I'm just like, I'll be tired when I get home,
right,
and just enjoy it. So you were talking about because like them being a glam band. One of the glam bands that I guess they're a parody band, but they're a band that I follow pretty often. I actually have clothing by them, is Still Panther.
Oh yeah.
I actually worked at the Fillmore Auditorium, and I was able to work their show one time, and then another time one of my friends' bands, the MF Ruckus, motherfucking Ruckus, they played with Still Panther in Denver.
Okay.
So a lot of the groups here in Oklahoma, like they're what do we call it? Turbo Negro, like the group that you see always like at the bars and stuff. They have bands all over, and the band out of Norwegian, band Turbo, like they're like kind of like a Kiss Army of punk rock.
Okay.
And so they're really, really cool. But yeah, they do a lot of shows, and they have a lot of different bands from all over the country that just play major bands, but they're just lower, but they're just part of this organization that goes to shows and stuff. And
sure.
Yeah.
I have an interesting story about Steel Panther, actually. I know a few years ago, what was it? I want to say it has been a few years ago now. They did a cattle call for a bunch of bass players. And I did Well, I had a bunch of people messaging me. They did some kind of big social post announcement where they said something about that. We're looking for a bass player. You got to be bitching. You got to do this. You got to do that. There was a few stipulations. Bitching was one of them, and I didn't forget about that. But I ended up filming. I had people messaging me, and they're like, "Hey, DieTrich, you should check this out." And I'm like, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, they got some cool music, and I dig some of their stuff. It's cool stuff. They're funny. But I was like, I don't know if that's really what my thing is. And after a few days, I was like, I had everything just like the lightning bolt hit. And I'm like, I got a great idea for this. And I was kind of feeding off of the vibes from some of the film stuff I had been doing, where I kind of, when I do film stuff, I kind of view a lot of times filmmakers will say, hey, you're DieTrich. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm being me, but I'm not really me. I'm like alternate universe me. So I kind of did like an alternate universe me, a kind of a more of an idiot version of myself, a total rebel without a clue vibe. So I did that. I had this whole thing there, and I thought it would be the goal was to kind of do like a thing where I did have some additional stuff for my demo reel. But I wrote the scenes and I improvised a lot of the stuff, and I did this whole thing there, and we were talking back and forth between legal stuff, and I was kind of I haven't actually posted the video. We never got that far, but I was talking with them about they wanted the copyright for the video. And I said, well, look, I don't have a problem with any of that because I'm using some of the Steel Panther music, but I'm also using some of my music in between for some of the stuff that I did. It's you'd have to see the video to see what I did. And I put a whole kind of mock audition together, and we were talking about it. And then I don't know what they did. I think they got their tour manager or somebody to, by the time they were doing they were weeding it down. So I still haven't posted, and at some point I will, and we'll just wait because I am going to start. I use that in some of my film demo reel. But,
I think the basis for Them Evils is one of my friend bands that are out there in LA.
Okay.
I think he even tried out for Steel Panther too.
I think they had hundreds of people trying
out. Yeah. Well, I mean, because I mean, who wouldn't want to be in a band like that? Because they're really funny and they're fun, and a lot of people come to those shows.
Right.
Like it's a good time. It's like. And I mean, and I always laugh every time that I listen to the Girls from Oklahoma, or what is it? The song that they have that's like Asian Hookers.
Asian Hookers.
Like that. That's hilarious. Like it's such a good song. But if you're in the military and you understand the joke about the Asian hooker thing, it's even better.
Sure.
It's
absolutely
a hilarious song. So talk about the major band that many people here probably know all about. And I mean, and if you don't, then you're probably living under a rock, because this band has been around for a very long time. Talk about Lords of Acid. How did you said that you joined the band in 2017 before we interviewed? How did that come about?
There's after working with different people in the industry, you make certain connections and stuff like that, and then certain things come up, and you say, hey, I think I might be a good fit for this situation, and you put together your stuff and get them the information from different performances that you've done before. I had just done the tour with Doyle and a couple other independent national tours, and then I had just gone to Europe with another band called Mad Life. And then the people that were helping working with Mad Life happened to be connected to to Lords of Acid in a way, and I reached out to them at a time when they were looking for a bass player, and I said, I think this would be a great band because Lords of Acid has that kind of. I was going back to, you had mentioned something about bands that were had inspired me back in the day. You can go to the normal Iron Maiden was a big influence, but then when I started refining stuff and narrowing it and getting in more into certain different expanding and getting into different things as far as songwriting and performance and stuff like that. Prince was a huge influence on me also. I listened to a good 10, 12 albums of his when I was still studying albums and studying stuff like that. So I felt like this was is that similar vibe, maybe, like their European cousin kind of vibe of Prince, and so I felt very natural for me to jump in there and do this heavy bass at the front of the with all of the programming and everything going on. It felt very natural, and I feel like this is a very it is not a surprise to have found a place there. But I mean, then again, at the same time, I feel very thankful and gracious to be a part of this legacy at this point. I think that when you're doing a band like Lords of Acid or even Pretty Boy Floyd or something, you're trying to harken back to the day way back when they were at their peak, breaking through, and the edgy kind of music that they were doing at the time. And then at that time, so you have like when you're doing shows now, when we go out on this tour in a couple weeks, there's going to be people that were at those shows, that listened to those albums, that bought them when they came out, when they were released. Yep. And then you're also going to have a younger crowd that is just now realizing that Lords of Acid is a band, and they've got this really cool stuff that's still applicable and still is relevant to today. And they're going to be like, they're like, wow, this is great. You can get to go see them, and we want to deliver that kind of a performance that harkens back to the 90s, but that presents to both that crowd back in the day and the crowd from today also.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a fan of them, and I still am. I originally, back whenever I used to mess with like Acid Pro, like the software back in like Sony's software and stuff, and a bunch of other different little editing softwares on the computer, I used to make techno and like industrial EDM type stuff.
Some beats.
Yeah, and I use a lot of loops, when I was doing my stuff, but then like I had a lot of friends that were doing DJing, and so whenever like around it was like around 04, 05, something like that. Like I was had a bunch of songs just rolling through a mixer on a software, and I was mixing like a couple other different artists, and I was mixing in the song "Pussy" and stuff. And I always think it's funny about that song because I'm like I don't know why people get offended about a song that's only talking about a cat. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I've never heard anybody get offended about the song. I'm oblivious.
Yeah, I mean, because it's literally about a cat. And a cat that I've loved to pet.
It sure is.
And that's all it is. And so let's talk about some of your personal stuff, your personal art, like production stuff that you do, and all that. What artists or what bands are you doing that for?
Well, mostly I've been my personal project is Beauty and the Suffering, and I've been doing. I did a batch of horror videos a few years back, and zombie horror, supernatural kind of vibe, and I released a couple of them, and then I got busy doing some of the other stuff that I've been touring with, and it's still at the forefront of my my goals to get more material out there and more visuals out there. But it's like one step at a time. We're trying to get one tour, and there's always so much going on. And then some of the film stuff I've been working with has been taking some time also. And then I'm also working on different. I'm constantly jumping into different projects that I'm working on. Whether it's I've got a couple other projects that I haven't spoken about, like some stories and books and stuff like that, and they're in different stages of development. So I'm always working on something. So
awesome. So with your current band, do you want to play some music from them?
Sure.
We're about halfway in, so we can play like a song or two, and then there. So I'll pause this, and then we'll like bring up a song that we can play.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
CC, we know how. displeasing to me now. Easy, we indulge, sick and twisted, we don't budge. In frenzy, monsters gather, push the buttons, nothing matters. Ready to launch this disaster, drops of blood, sick pitter patter, shoot to kill things on our honor. Say your prayers, 'cause you're a goner. Pity our foes when they stumble, fear the stampede, feel the rumble. Revelate, revelate, a ghost who owes us right to stay. Dead to stay, we're coming for you. Revelate, revelate, a ghost who owes us right to stay. Dead to stay, we're coming for you. Revelate, we're coming for you. 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 The sleeping giant wakes. Let's open the floodgates. We know the life you fear. Let's send it all right here. Killing's easy. We know how. Your death is pleasing to me now. Overloading, narcissistic, self-imploding, so sadistic, externalizing, masochism. Feel the movement, feel the rhythm. Revelate, revelate, a ghost who owes us right to stay. Dead to stay, we're coming for you. Revelate, revelate, a ghost who owes us right to stay. Dead to stay, we're coming for you. Revelate, we're coming for you. We're coming for you.
Awesome.
Thank you. That's actually a part 2 of a trilogy, and the first part, called The Crazies, is on YouTube also, and then the third part I have not released yet. We'll do that when things start picking up again.
Yeah, so I saw a flyer that was out on your page a few days ago, and it said something about like a CGI movie monster thing.
Right.
Yeah, so kind of like I guess we can talk about like your films and like all the stuff that you've worked with at film.
Yeah, so a few years back, we got my band, so they were asking a film called Clown Motel had asked about using a song. And I felt like Reveille, which we played earlier, we would fit great with their film. And when I was talking with the producers about it, I said, well, hey, I've got a live band. We can do a performance for your movie. And so it went from just putting a song and submitting a song for their film to doing a performance. And then it kind of branched off from there. When we went to the the premiere for Clown Motel, I spoke with the producers. We were at the Rainbow, and I remember asking them, I said something, hey guys, I got a great idea for bringing the singer for the band back in. And I gave them I pitched them this idea, and they liked it. And then so that was kind of the kickoff for the film stuff that I've been working on. And little by little, I've been doing small support roles and cameo stuff and different film stuff. And more recently, just you had brought up the CGI, big bad CGI monsters, which I just
which cracked me up because like that's a perfect name for like most modern like monster movies.
I just confirmed
that
that,
and stuff.
Right, and I just confirmed that with Dustin Ferguson, who is the film director for that. And this guy's he's a maniac. I think he's like filmed like a couple hundred films as of right now. He's got a couple hundred films under his belt. And he's usually just jumping from film to film, and it's really impressive body of work. But we met a couple years ago in 2022 on the set of the Lords of Acid video for Hell Does Exist, and we worked on that together. And then we worked on a batch of other films together. There's let me think of the names. I'm trying to think of the names. I'm drawing a blank, so we'll go back and we'll add that later. But in any case, I've got the big bad CGI monsters, and then Clown Motel. We just signed and sealed it like 48 hours ago. The third Clown Motel. So I did the first one as a band performance. I did the second one returning as the lead singer and kind of, being that kind of rebel without a clue vibe. And now I don't have the script yet, but I am confirmed for the third one, Clown Motel 3, which we'll be filming in August, and it should be I'm looking forward to that too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm actually a fan of those type of like horror movies. I love horror. Like, but I like I like movies like ridiculous stuff like Nuke 'Em High, stuff like that. Just ridiculous. Or Poltergeist,
Toxic Avenger, right?
Yeah, well, like Poltergeist and like these movies like that particular director. I forget his name, but he makes these ridiculous horror movies that are just like really corny, but they're like Class B movies, but they're great.
Right.
Like they're just so great done. Like Nuke 'Em High is hilarious. Like the new one, there's like a scene where they're in a school and there's like all these people being checked for like simple things, like they're set off metal detectors, and while they're like while these other people are like walking by them and they're like taking weapons and stuff all through the metal detectors, while this person's being yelled at for like having like a toothbrush or something, or like a metal, something metal that's on them, and so it's just a really really funny like little slapstick jokes that they put in these movies that are the Christmas one that was coming out with like the gingerbread man, where he was like an evil gingerbread man. That's a ridiculous movie, but they're really really good. And so I like horror films that are like that. But I also like things like like Freddy and like Friday the 13th back in the day. Like those were really well done, and same with like Jason or those classics. Like I really like those movies. Or one of my favorite movies actually is Event Horizon, which is a movie that a lot of people don't really like.
Here.
But,
I keep on seeing. I'm a huge fan of Event Horizon. I know. I heard all the stuff about the deleted stuff and how they found the film footage in the cave or something.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
So a huge fan. Sam Neill. It's just one of his best. I absolutely love that movie.
Yeah, and I love sci-fi films.
Let me ask you this: just out of curiosity, since we're talking about Event Horizon, we could probably talk about Event Horizon for like a half an hour. But I'm just curious if you've ever seen the movie Solaris.
No, I haven't actually seen that one.
If you, you might like. I would highly recommend that. Okay, Solaris. Clooney remade it. And I haven't had a chance to see the original from back in the day. Like we're talking like vintage era. I want to say the 60s or 50s. But the movie is real. I thought it was well done and very. I think that if you're into the Event Horizon thing, it's a little bit different, but it's got a little bit of. I think it's safe to say that they cued that somebody saw that, and it's probably back in their
psyche of it.
Yeah. But it's very well done. I really liked it a lot. So I think so. It's just a recommendation.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely look that up. All right, so let's talk about some tour stuff that you have coming up. Because you're about to do a world tour.
Well, it's not a world tour; it's a North American tour.
Oh, okay.
And so we the last time we performed together was in 2019 in Las Vegas, and I've told this to a few people. I said we thought that we were going to be right back. We did the tour, and we thought, hey, we're going to be right back in the spring, and then we had it all planned. We had a tour announced. We announced it like in the fall of 2019, and 2019 after I got back from Europe, and we were all ready to go. We're stacking everything up. We're getting everything ready. We're grabbing, getting everything, tour prepping and everything like that, and then we start hearing things about that are going on in the world about COVID and stuff like that, and then I had a feeling that it was going to be tricky to pull it off past a certain point. And I remember I mentioned something to Galen. I said, hey, I'm going to, at that point I was living on the more in the Eastern time zone. I was like, it's going to be a 3-day drive to get out there. And I'm not sure we're going to make it to New York, because I just couldn't see them letting us into New York when things were starting to get a little weird. And then this was now 2020 in the spring, and we all met out there. We did a rehearsal, and then Praga and his Belgian troupe, our new our acid singer Acid Queen came out, and we were all ready to go, and they had just been there for 1 hour in LA with our rehearsal, and we were just getting ready to fire things up, and they said that they had shut down California, and then within like a couple hours they shut down the whole entire country. So I drove 3 days out there, and our Praga had just arrived from Belgium for like whatever that trip was, probably a good 15-hour flight, 16-hour flight, and we went out and had a drink and had an appetizer, and we sat there and chatted and caught up for a little bit, and then we're all going home, and it was pretty intense, and we just never thought that it would be. We thought that we were coming right back. Like, we'll be back in the spring and it'll be great. And then it'll be, and now it's literally going to be 5 years since we played our last show.
Yeah.
5 years, and then 4 years since we've seen each other. So just that whole thing is just kind of, mind blowing that it took that long to get everything back together again. And I'm super happy, and we'll be out there in 2 weeks, and we may be out there by the time this interview airs, but we're meeting in Los Angeles, and when hopefully nothing else goes weird. No World War III, please.
Right? Nothing else that can stop music. I mean,
let's do this.
My whole podcast was started because of all this. I started doing this because we were locked down, and we were like, man, I really want to go to a show. I really want to see a band. And then me and my buddy, two of my buddies, they were just like, hey, why don't we just start interviewing bands, and then we can start doing performances, local, like with acoustic and stuff. With these bands on a show. And
we did one of those. We did when things were kind of dark and everything, and. But it's completely, when you think about the amount of people who are not able to do anything, all the people in the music industry, clubs and club owners and security and techs and people who set up all these shows, all these individuals, it's that alone. And I mean that's just the music industry. I'm not talking about
you're not
anything
talking about
else.
Film or anything else.
Everything
that's
else.
Everything.
Just
everything
nightmare for about 18 months, 20 months or whatever it ended up being. It was just terrible.
I hope that we never ever relive any of that again in our lifetime. Because I definitely, I don't know if I could do it again. It'd drive me nuts.
Well,
you know,
we have to find a way to be patient and try and work our way through it, because we hope that nothing else happens like that. But we're in a very strange time period where a lot of things are, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of chaos in geopolitics, but also even in like AI and stuff like that. And it's hard to, one of the things I think that's kind of frustrating to me is how every time you see something now with when you're talking about an image or something like that, you have to a story that you're reading. Well, you're kind of wondering, well, who wrote this, and then, but now there's AI involved in the mix, and you're like going, well, what am I looking at? Is this? You have to pull out your magnifying glass. I'm a little frustrated by that, to be honest, because I don't have. It's already, time is at a, is a luxury to begin with. I mean, if you have to sit there and go through every single picture that you're looking at to try to determine whether or not this is real or not, I think the solution for me personally, and everybody's going to have their own way of dealing with this, but I'm starting to think that maybe turning the internet off and not going online is probably going to be a bigger and better solution for me personally, because a lot of this stuff is there's a lot of garbage out there. Yeah, and there's been a lot of garbage out there for a while. But I think, like, in terms of now AI is jumping in there, and you're like, oh, I got garbage on top of garbage, and I don't know what I'm looking at.
Well, I mean, just even inside the music industry, I mean, you could do a lot with AI that's good, but then there's a whole lot of bad that you can do. Like, they're mimicking famous people's voices and putting in songs that they didn't even write, and that to me is just like a very questionable thing. It questions ethics a lot.
I think what needs to happen. For me, I think that you should indicate whether or not AI was used, and maybe to the extent, like, there should be some kind of scale, like there's a lot of AI involvement here, or there's minimal AI involvement, or there's no AI, and then I can determine whether or not I want to view this or dive into this, because I think that I'd rather just deal with human created visual art or music or whatever. I'd rather
I
that's
agree
what
with
I
that.
would prefer.
I mean, I can understand, like, using apps like Midjourney for, like, inspiration, but, like, I am a firm believer that if you're gonna do something, then it should be real. I mean, I do painting. I have paintings inside the gallery that we're in right now, and I mean, it's one of those things that there's originality, and then there's just like this whole world of just like faking nowadays, and I don't really know how to take it in, because they're talking about how to use the tools in the music industry and for the better. And I mean, there's certain tools that are great, but I think that they're tools. They're not meant to be replacing things like artists or singers or songwriters or all these things. I think that they're meant to, like, an example for me is like Opus Clips. Opus Clips is an app that most music artists can use. That what you do is you take an interview like we're doing right now. You load it in the software, and then it will split it up in little videos that can be thrown on like TikTok and Reels and all these different things. That's AI being used as a tool to grab something that is original and then putting it together in a way that can be done very fast and get it out there, right? But then there's people out there that are like writing a entire album that was made with AI beats and AI music, and it's like, and they didn't write any of it. They just typed in what to do, and
I think that there should be something in place that says that you should indicate that at the front, not buried in anything, that you should say this is AI created, and people can choose whether or not they want to,
accept it.
Check it out. Because I know that for me personally, I would probably pass on stuff like that. Although it's really complicated, because I know that I think what ends up happening maybe another decade or two, or I don't know how soon, I don't know how long. But I think the idea here is that everybody, you, me, our neighbors, we get home from doing what it is that we're doing, and we want to relax, and we want to watch something that caters to our preferences, and with an ending that ends the way we want it to, and that tells a story that we would prefer to see. We want to see something sci-fi. We want to see something tragic. We want to see something... And I think the idea is that you would be able to plug in and put these parameters in and then watch your 90 minutes sci-fi tragedy, and you get the kind of story that you want. You don't have to second guess. You don't have to wait for someone to go, well, I don't know how this... It sounds like it's a trendy movie, and I'll check it out on Hulu. Or I can... But you can actually program the parameters and go, boom, AI gives you that movie, starring you in the role. Or... You've heard the things.
Yeah. I mean,
you're
there's
Rocky.
Entire.
You're Rocky now. You're Luke, and you're fighting Darth Vader.
You're Darth Vader. You're in the scenes, like video games. It's like that world, like AI in video games, and what is it? Like Black Mirror, basically.
Sure.
Like Black Mirror episodes.
Absolutely. Right.
I love to reference Black Mirror because it's such a dystopian ideas, but it puts it in perspective that it's like, okay, maybe we need to tread lightly with these new ideas that we're working with.
That's the entire problem. When they introduced the internet, they didn't know what it was going to do. Yeah, and it totally destroyed the music industry, and it did a bunch of other things, and we still haven't recovered from it. Now they're going to introduce AI, and it's going to be exponential destruction of all kinds of industries and stuff, and they're not thinking about that. They're just going, well, what can we do? It's just, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but let's just dive into it. And well, wait a minute. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah. And so here we are. I think it's a very bad idea. Yeah,
I fully agree. I fully agree with that. I mean, and I'm one of those people that, like, I use some of the tools, but I don't. But like, I'm not gonna go deep dive into like making my music with it or anything like that. So
this is probably really rudimentary. But when you're talking about AI, what would I do with AI? How would I see using it? The way I would see using it is I want AI to scan every store within the vicinity to find the cheapest price on the 5 things that I'm looking for, and then I'll go and grab those things there. Yeah. I'd prefer not to spend 20 minutes doing it myself. Right. And I could save 20 minutes by having AI find the cheapest way to grab bananas.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Apps.
And I know they have apps that do like
right. But they are working on AI and algorithms now. Like most of them are. I mean, that's all algorithms are is really our artificial intelligence that's like doing a task. Like Google, it's a search engine, but its algorithms is designed to do a task for you. But a lot of people, they say that they're now using TikTok to like search and do all those things now. So the younger generation, the newer generation, they're actually using like apps like TikTok instead of like actually going to Google. So Google's suffering right now because they're trying to stay relevant because they're being pushed out by all this new technology coming out. And I think that technology is one of those things that it isn't going to go away. It's going to change, and we just have to adapt. But it's a matter of like...
Think about this for a second. Let me just interject something here. Think about this. Even if we in the U.S. decided to have some rules in place, that doesn't mean everywhere else in the world is going to adopt those rules also. Right. So there's no telling. We would, even if we somehow came to some kind of level of common sense and said, hey, before we dive into this, let's see exactly what we're dealing with and then go from there. Yeah. There's other people that are not. They're just like, let it, whatever happens.
Let it run wild.
Let it run wild and
see
what happens and see the benefits, but also and try and dodge the cons. Yeah. That's what I think would end up happening. So I think kind of what you're talking about, dystopian this or whatever, and I think we're there. Yeah. I kind of feel like we're there, and it's, when you're talking about doing this tour coming up and you're talking about doing like every day is literally a gift, and if we can have an experience that's rewarding, I think that's the best we can hope for at this point.
Definitely.
I'm very positive and trying to think of, what can we squeeze out of today? How much can I get done? How much can I, let's get this stuff stuff that I don't really want to do, so I can spend more time doing stuff that I do want to do. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way nowadays. So is there anything else that you want to go over before we start to wrap this up?
I think we've kind of covered a lot of the ground there. The Lord's Tour is, we're very excited to get back out there. It's like I mentioned earlier, who would have known that it would have been 5 years since our last performance? 5 years? That's nuts. And so here we are. We're about ready to kick it off and we're hitting Canada too. So we're hitting Montreal. We haven't been to Montreal yet. Since I've been involved with the band, and then so Toronto, Vancouver, we're hitting all the usual coastal stuff: Seattle, L.A., San Francisco, New York, Tampa, Orlando, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, everything.
Nice.
It's all in there.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, that's going to be a very, very good tour. So, I mean, I'm glad to see that, the band's able to get back out there and that all your other projects are working.
Thank you.
And being successful because, a lot of these local artists, they really need to hear it. Like, they need to hear people that are actually out there doing the work, and actually, achieving their goals and everything, because a lot of times they give up because they don't think that it's possible, and I'll tell you that it is possible. I've seen it. I've seen bands and I've seen members of different instrumentalists that have went from just some local band to playing with major artists because they had a gift and they pushed their gift and then they actually went for it. And that's really what you got to do. You got to go for it. And so, I mean, if you have that feeling that you think that, that music is in your heart and it's in your mind and it's in your soul, then you probably should be doing it. And, I tell these kids this, but they don't always listen. They're like, oh, I'm just going to drop out of music school and go do this other degree that makes money. And it's like,
I can definitely throw a couple notes in there. I've always said to myself that at this point, it took a little bit longer than I would have thought, but you know what? This is the rule I go by. Better late than never. There's nothing, it took me this long to get to Brazil, and it was worth it. And so better late than never. And if you're younger and you're thinking that it's a big mountain, it's a big mountain, and you got to work your way through it. But don't overthink everything, and just stick with what you feel like is best for you. If you want to go grab another degree, or you want to go study a couple things, or you feel like there's a couple things, I don't see why not.
Right.
But and if music will still be there.
Yeah.
And you can come back to it. There was definitely a time when I was younger, I definitely threw everything in the closet and I said, to hell with this. I'm done with music because I'm so frustrated right now. So what did I do? I said, I'm going to go do film stuff. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever done because it's like, music is now, if you're covering you're doing independent bands and stuff, you're covering everything on your own. So what could possibly be the best move is to get into film, which costs even more than
it costs a lot more than music.
That was my big move there for about a year. I did that. I dove more into story ideas and fleshing stuff out, and then I was like, you know what, music. I'm going to get back into this. Yeah, but I still do both.
Right.
And then little by little, I've met a lot of different people in both industries, and it's starting to it's just kind of come together on that.
So we'll close out here. As for the local Earshot, I run on 3 tenets. It's time, talent, and treasure. I value everybody's time for listening. I know that there's millions of podcasts out there, but I'm glad that you chose to listen to my show. And as for talent, if you are a music artist, big, small, whatever. I love to talk to music artists. And so just reach out to me at john@thelocalearshot.com. The third T is treasure. I run on donations. So if you want to donate to the show, you can go over to thelocalearshot.com. There's a tab that says donate. If you tap that, then you can give me donations. I take pretty much anything that turns into money. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, like I said, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Lord. I didn't know the other bands. I knew Pretty Boy Floyd, obviously, legends. But but I didn't know the other stuff that you were doing. I didn't know about those bands. So now I'm kind of gonna be looking into those bands, And so I mean, definitely greatly thankful for having you on the show.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure that we'll probably end up doing it again in the future. So, yeah, it's great.
Good seeing everybody. If you're on social, I'm on social, Facebook, DieTrich Thrall, TikTok, DieTrich Thrall. The Instagram is BIT Suffering, Beauty in the Suffering. What else is out there? And Twitter. DieTrich Thrall. Everything's DieTrich Thrall.
Pretty much all your socials. And then beautyandthesuffering.com is your main site for
beautyandthesuffering.com, DietrichThrall.com.
Yeah. And that's two websites that I pulled up. I'll put all of that inside the show notes and inside the video notes, so then people can just click on the links. If you haven't heard of all these bands, then definitely check them out.
YouTube also.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. YouTube.
Band and person for the.
YouTube is the main platform for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Honestly. So, all right. Well, and everybody, thank you for listening.